So hey, welcome back. It's Jeff. Welcome to the next road, if you will, in my journey. The time is June of 1987. And at the time, I'm working at another place here in town. Kind of warehouse work. It was an Army surplus radio store. And it was interesting. You know, you had all these old World War II minesweepers and little crank generators and these big satellite dishes, which, you know, back in 1987, satellite dishes were humongous. And something interesting happened there one day, and I was told, hey, we need to pull out these satellite dishes. We sold them because they had been sitting there for a long time. And I go, well, who'd you sell them to? And he goes, you're not going to believe this. I said, okay. And he goes, we sold them to Pink Floyd. And I go, no way. And he said, yeah. So we pulled them out. We waited for the truck to come. This truck pulled up. And the guy gets out and he goes, hey, I'm from Pink Floyd. I'm here for the satellite dishes. And I was like, no kidding. So fast forward, somebody went to a concert, I think it was up in Cleveland. And I said, did they have these humongous satellite dishes on their stage? And they go, yeah, they were all painted different colors and they were shooting lasers out of them. And I was like, no kidding. I said, we sold those to them. And so that's kind of a little, you know, interesting thing that happened along the way. So all this time, my dad was an Air Force veteran. So I think he served 6 years back in the 60s. And he kept telling me, Jeff, you know, if I was a kid nowadays, I'd go in the military. And I thought about it. And then one day I went into the recruiters. And right then and there, I signed up and joined the United States Army as a military policeman. And I remember coming home and going up the stairs. Dad looked at me. He goes, where you been? I said, I just signed up for the Army. He goes, you did not. And I said, yes, I did. And he goes, when are you leaving? I said, October. He goes, well, good for you. That's all he said. Man of few words. His dad was a man of few words. So it didn't surprise me. So part of me thinks that he didn't really think I joined, but as time got closer and closer to the October, yeah, I had joined. So, ironically, as I looked at my DD-214, I don't know, about 5-6 months ago, I noticed that I went into the Army October 20th, 1987, and it just so happens, fast forward to the future, 2003, my daughter is born on October 20th. So kind of weird. So October 20th comes, they see me off at the local Greyhound station. A little flip forward, my buddy from high school picked me up from the house, and we had to go to the recruiter's office first to get all the paperwork and stuff. And I remember we were drinking some Jim Beam, and we were listening to Sweet Home Alabama because I was going to Anniston, Alabama to go to Fort McClellan for basic training. So we went there, and then we came over, we got the bus ticket and went to the Greyhound station. And, you know, Mom gave me a big hug and kind of shed a tear. Her boy was going off to the Army. And, you know, Dad said goodbye, and off I went. Off to Columbus, to the MEPS station. It was the first time that I've flown on an airplane. Flew down to Atlanta, got on a bus, and drove, I don't know how many hours. It had to have been 2-3 hours to Fort McClellan, Alabama. And I got there, it was dark when I got there. And funniest thing, you know, you hear about these all drill sergeants and stuff like that. And we get to the intake station there on Fort McClellan. And this little drill sergeant, he's got this Smokey Bear hat on, you know, but he had to have been like 5'2", and I'm 6'1". And he come walking by me, and I was like, this is a drill sergeant? And, you know, I had two friends that were in the military, so they kind of clued me on what's going to happen. And it's, you know, I spent a couple days there at the intake until the whole company formed up. And then we all loaded onto the cattle cars, everything that we had, you know, because we had gotten our uniforms and everything, boots and all that stuff. And we headed out to the basic training housing area that we were going to be staying in. So, housed four platoons for the company. And we get there, and again, my one buddy from the Army said, this is going to happen. They're going to get on the bus, and they're going to be, you know, yelling at you, and you're going to have to get off the bus in a hurry. And drill sergeant gets on, and he's slowly, calmly explaining what we need to do. And I'm going, what is going on here? And so we all got off the bus. They had little footprints out there, and you know, it was just kind of funny that you had to put your feet on the footprints, and then they marched us into the CTA, and we were all standing there in a line, and I was like, what is going on? There's no yelling or anything. And I remember this one tree all the way across the CTA. It had one leaf on it because it, you know, it was October, even though it was Alabama. And then from down to my left, I hear this, what are you looking at? And then all hell broke loose. And drill sergeants were yelling and everything. And I just said, I am not taking my eye off that one leaf. And I'm standing there, and everybody else is doing push-ups and everything and yelling. And I see this eagle on the drill sergeant's Smokey Bear hat come right in front of my eyes, and I refocused on the eagle. And I'm staring, and he just stood there. He was waiting for me to look down at him or move or whatever, and I did not move. I did not change my gaze. I didn't look around, and he finally moved off. The only time I got dropped, as they call it, to do push-ups, was when they dropped all of us. And so it was interesting. Then we all went upstairs, and we had to come down for fire guard, you know, QC, and had to report into the senior drill sergeant and all this stuff. So interesting first day, you know, and you know, going through basic training, it was something everybody doesn't experience, and a lot of people don't like the military, and I understand, but for young people, and me being a manager now, sorry, I hit my mic. For me being a manager, I see these younger kids come through, and the work ethic that I once had, and I'll admit that, isn't there. But once you get into the military, you are forced to go to work every day, in and out, whether you feel sick, whether you feel lonely, whatever it is, you have to get up and you have to go. And that has instilled in me the discipline to get up and go to work every day. And I think every kid should experience that. Male, female, whatever. They need to experience that. It's not all bad to get up and go to work every day. Yeah, you want to live your life, you know, but that's what the military did for me. So I graduated basic training, lost a bunch of weight. I went in at 217, and I lost down to 193. And when mom and dad came down for basic training, and they were just amazed at the transformation that happened with me, so, no hair, because I had longer hair when I was in high school, and no hair, no mustache, no beard, just plain Jeff. And so I went home for Christmas Exodus, and something funny that happened that first morning afterwards. My mom had been driving my beloved 1984 Monte Carlo SS. I love that car. She'd been driving it, so I had to get up the next day and take her to work. And she couldn't get me up. And I vaguely remember hearing, Jeff. And then all of a sudden she goes, "Private sites." And I come shooting out of that bed and stood up at attention, and she was laughing her ass off. And I was like, "That is not funny, Mom." I was like, "You about gave me a heart attack." And she was just cracking up laughing. And, that's one of those little things, my aunt, I'm standing there in the kitchen at parade rest, my hands behind my back, and she was just kind of looking at me, and I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Why are you standing like that?" I go, "Like what?" And she goes, "With your hands behind your back." And I go, "Oh, that is just from basic training. That's what we did." And she kind of laughed. So I go back, get a little bit of homesick going back to Alabama. The very first day, it was like January, 3rd or 4th or something like that. Very first day, there is a sleet storm in Alabama. And I'm going, it's Alabama. This is supposed to happen in Ohio, not in Alabama. And we were the only stupid company marching around the frickin' post that day in the sleet and like an inch of, sleet everywhere. And we had this kid from the Virgin Islands, and he was like, "What is this stuff?" And I said, "Well, this is sleet." And he goes, "What's that?" And I go, "It's a combination of snow, ice, and rain." So, so we got through that. But, flash forward, we went through the military police schooling and everything. So I couldn't go on leave again after AIT, which is the military schooling for your MOS. And so I had to wait for orders to go to my first duty assignment. And my duty assignment was Europe. So I went to Germany. So I leave, I don't know. It was a while before I left the basic training unit to go to Germany, but I went. Got to Frankfurt, snowing like crazy. And it must have snowed like 6 inches that day, and it took us forever to get to the unit. I mean, forever. It was like 5-6 hours, and it was a long day. And they took us to a unit that was outlying platoon area. And me and a buddy from basic training, we went to Europe together, and we just kind of threw our stuff in the room, and we sat down, and they actually had a pop machine that had beer in it. So we got a beer, and we were standing there, and I was writing a letter home, and the door opens, and in walks this guy. And now, remind you, we're just privates, okay? I don't even think we had a stripe yet. We were just slick sleeve privates. And I look at the guy, and I see all this black on his collar, and I jump off my bunk, and I was like, "Addies!" And I said, "First Sergeant, how you doing?" And he goes, "You better look at that collar again." And I looked at it, and I go, "Sergeant Major, how are you?" And I was like, "Great. This is my first day in Germany." I insulted the Sergeant Major. And he goes, "Privates, is this the way you live?" I was like, "Sergeant Major, we just got here. It was a long ride in, long flight over." I said, "We're just kind of tired." And he goes, "Okay." So he left, and I was like, we both slumped back, and we were like, oh my God, we're in so much trouble in the morning. But we didn't. So I can't say enough about my experience in Germany, because there is no way I would have gone to Europe without the military. So while in the military, you know, obviously we've got some time off. You know, we switched from patrolling the streets to going out into the field. So it was 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So if we weren't in the field, we were kind of on our own for the weekends and stuff like that. So, so I've been to places like Garmisch-Partenkirchen, which is southern Germany, right there at the German Alps, right on the border of Austria, where the Zugspitze is, and I went down there with one of the girls from the platoon. Not a romantic relationship, just as friends. And we had a great time down there, and learned that the 218th MP company, I had a choice to go to. I should have took it, because I would have been in this nice touristy mountainous area with my own room, big refrigerator. Instead, I'm shacked up with 4 guys, you know, in this big room, and it would just, I should have chose 218th. Instead, I ended up in the 615th. Go Bloodhounds! Woo! But I also we organized a trip with a lot of people from the platoon to go to Paris. You know, I had a chance when the wall had fallen, and I believe this is 89. I got all the S2 briefings and security briefings to go into Czechoslovakia after the wall fell to visit, and yeah, that didn't work out, because I got called and said, you have CQ duty tomorrow, and I go, I'm walking out the door to go to Czechoslovakia, and they said, no, you're not, you're going to CQ. So I did not get to go. So I learned to ski in Berchtesgaden, which is famous for Hitler's Eagle's Nest, which sat way up on a mountaintop, and you couldn't get up there in the winter because it was all snowed in and stuff, but you could see it from what was known as the General Walker Hotel. But if you ever see some of Hitler's movies, that they're in this really concreted area, it's got this parapet on it, that was the General Walker. And in Band of Brothers, they go down into underneath this place, and there's all kinds of tunnels and stuff, and that's where they found the vault with all that wine and stuff in it. And they have a map that shows you where, you know, Hitler's house was, and Göring's, and all the Hitler head honchos. Interesting, very interesting. But I learned to ski there. I wasn't very good at it, but we had fun. And the last day we were there, I started in Austria, right on the border, and we skied down into Germany. And I remember the last time we were going down, there's this machine crawling up the side of the mountain at me. And I'm going, what the heck is this? And you know, it's breaking up the ice. And I was like, I just went off. Let's go to the guest house. Let's get some beers. So that's what we did. And so that was another interesting thing that I did with my life while I was in Germany. So, excuse me. So, 1989. Excuse me. 89, I had moved to Nuremberg, Germany from my outlying platoon, became a unit armor. So I was in this bigger city. When I was there, I met this X-ray tech, and we started dating. I remember sending a tape home to mom and dad saying, hey, I met this girl, and this is December of 89. It was just before I went skiing. And so I was talking about her and stuff like that, and we continued to date. And June of 1990, 7 months later, we decided to go home and get married. So we married. September 2nd of 1990, I am discharged from the military. So that is 1 month to the day after Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. This will come into play later. This is where I'm going to end this video. So being discharged from the Army wasn't a bad thing. The plan was to retire from the military, but you know, after things evolved in the military and in the world with the Gulf War, I decided to get out and create another road or another branch in my life. So it leads me to Georgia and a new career, and then something that I never expected was going to happen to me. So please subscribe and like. It costs you nothing, but it helps me tremendously. And thanks for coming along with me on Life's Scenic Route.